Please welcome to the stage Mr. Steve Howat from Continental Tyre Group Limited.
Good morning all. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for warming up the audience this morning. Well, it's an honour and a privilege to be with you all this morning. Some very eminent people from the tyre industry here today. My focus this morning is on one of three particular subject areas around the subject of safety, safer roads, safer products, and what I'm focusing on this morning, which is safer people. To keep you guys on your edge of your seats, I'm going to show you some photos. Okay. If you can see that one, what do you think? An interesting concept when it comes to axle stands, I think. There? Yeah. Or, I don't really need to say anything about that photo whatsoever. Or this one, this is a bit of a long range shot. But yeah, interesting jacking procedure going on there. Now, the disappointing thing about these three photos is that my team actually took these photos less than a month ago. Yeah? And we weren't looking for them to make it sort of something we can talk about this morning. These were found just when they were doing their everyday jobs. So it puts things in perspective, I think, and the work we still need to do on this. I thought I'd just actually start with this fantastic statement, and this statement actually says, the only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. Fortunately, I didn't make that statement. A very famous person made that statement. Any ideas who that might be? Very famous person. Henry Ford, a very long time ago. I unfortunately still hear now and again in our industry that one of the reasons we're not investing in our people is that we're actually making them more valuable within our industry, and there is more chance of them being poached by another company. We really have to try and stop that type of mindset and move forward on that. Just some I love statistics. I love statistics. So we did some little bit of research to do with the average salary of a tyre technician. Now, these are tyre technicians, not just truck tyre technicians, but retail technicians as well. The average salary at the moment is about 26,000k. Yeah. We know also there's over 1,000 open vacancies as far as tyre technicians are concerned at the moment. And a really shocking statistic is the one at the end, which actually states that pretty much every other month there is a fatality when it comes to roadside recovery. Okay, it's not necessarily a truck tyre technician that's losing their life, but somebody who's dealing with something on the side of the road. To reinforce these statistics, I've got some comments from two very senior people within our industry. One of them is from Simon Wright of Universal Tyres. You probably know him very well. And he's basically reinforcing some of those statistics you've already seen on the screen. He's like most of you people in the room here today. He recognises that there is actually a real shortage of skilled commercial technicians within our industry at the moment. And obviously a lot are leaving, you know, as far as retirements are concerned. And the reality is that we need to do more to retain people and to obviously bring people into our industry. And one of the ways of doing that, of course, is by actually demonstrating that we have a proper career path and we're actually investing them when it comes to training. And this is also reinforced by Adrian Bork from NTDA Tyres, again reiterating the same thing, you know, to do with this skills shortage and this issue to do with the ageing workforce, and that we have to do more to try and attract people into our industry. So I've been a bit negative this morning, a bit like the Grim Reaper, you know, all negative, negative. I just wanted to show you this really brief video that demonstrates that when we do get it right, then this is the sort of attitude and the sort of reaction you get from one of these guys that are on the coalface that are really, really important to us in our industry. So I just thought I'd just play this. It's only about 20 seconds long.
Hi, my name's Rob Potter and I've been a tyre technician with tyre maintenance for 9 years and worked in the industry for over 24 years. Whilst training back in the day generally incorporated city and guilds, one of the biggest changes I've seen in recent years in the level of investment made by my own company in regards to employee professional development. For me personally, the training gives me a real sense of belonging to a profession. Importantly, gives me the confidence to carry out my role in a safe, professional capacity. Whilst tyre maintenance have recognised the value of investment in training of their employees for a long time, finally the industry as a whole now seems to be waking up to this, and this can only be good news.
So did you notice the slick editing work going on there? It took a little bit of time, but we got there eventually. The reality is, why does it sometimes go wrong in our industry? Why do we tragically still hear of fatalities with our technicians? And I think none of it is of a surprise to us. The reality is, these are some of the key elements behind all of this, whether it's rushing. I remember one very good case that was at the weekend or on a Friday. That's always a particular issue. Frustration. When it comes to not having the right tools, wrong communication, that sort of stuff. Because we're short of staff, of course, this fatigue issue is becoming more and more of a problem. And the real danger one is complacency. A lot of the fatalities that we hear of in the industry are not newcomers. They're people that have been actually doing that job for many, many years. And again, this is one area that we really have to tackle. So, anyway, on to my theme of today, which is actually looking at new innovation as far as training is concerned. Some of you have probably seen this model before, this 70-20-10 rule. When it comes to us as human beings, the key part of our lives as far as learning what we need to know and to do our job properly, there's no surprises there, it comes from on-the-job training. Of course it does, yeah? 20% comes from what we call social learning, in other words, the interaction and sharing information between each other and between coaches or mentors or whatever it is. And only 10% of learning comes from a very formal process, people being invited to a training centre, to remit in the future or whatever it might be. So when they come to us, we really need to work hard on this learning process and make sure we are as effective as we possibly can be. Oh dear, the writing looks a little bit small on the screen. One of the new innovations when it comes to learning, and it's very much a flavour of the month at the moment, is something what we call adaptive learning. And there's basically this very traditional situation at the moment where, you actually select a certain potential delegate or employee, they come to a course and they run through the whole curriculum, the whole content. What adaptive learning is all about is actually understanding where the skills gaps are before they actually start that process. And of course, one of those ways of doing that is by having the right systems in place when it comes to training needs assessments. And we are really insistent on this moving forward. Why is that of benefit? Well, if you actually look at these strange graphs below, then in essence, we only want to train them on where the skills gaps are, where they need to actually go through this learning process. And what we are trying to do with our training is to very, very highly modulise it. And so if they've actually got it right in that specific module, then they get an exemption. They don't need to cover it again. And then we can just focus, as I say, on the bits that they need to learn. It sounds very obvious, but again, the very traditional method has always been to actually just get a name and get them to go on a course. And you can see on the effect of that on the particular screen. Okay. There has been movement, of course, in other areas, and some of this will be familiar to you. The traditional classroom and workshop training can never ever be replaced. Of course it can't. It's very, very effective indeed. But something that's becoming very, very important as well is this VLE, so this virtual learning experience. I think most of you have probably touched some of this in your time, some of this online training, and I know there'll be some cynics in the room saying, I'm not really completely sure how effective this particularly is. We're not saying it replaces the traditional training, but it can be very effective in supplementing it. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that in a moment or two. Here are 4 key elements that we actually are very much focused on and supporting. Yeah, the traditional online training, the technical support library that we also have and is available to people. Stefan's launched this year his fantastic video library as well. We also have something similar. And what's becoming really, really interesting is this social media element, and academia is really looking at this and how this can be used in a learning process. Okay? So, here's an example of our online training. There's 2 sections to it. The first is related to a passenger training session, and the second is to do with truck. What's really important and what cannot happen is that you go, right, Mr. Employee or Mrs. Employee, I want you to sit by this TV or this monitor and you're going to watch a video, an educational video, and that should be it. Then you'll have all the knowledge you need, we'll sign you off, you're ready on that. It cannot work like that. What you need is the right management tools, the right monitoring tools to make sure that that person has actually understood what he's actually listening to or watching, and has actually then has to take some assessment. So this is very structured and must be, as I say, all the time assessed. So yeah, we'll just show you an example of this. So just 2 examples of many, many other areas that we're very focused on in this particular part of VLE, this virtual learning experience. The 4th bit, if you can recall, was to do with social platforms, and again, some statistics. These are really impressive statistics. I've just chosen 3 there. Obviously, the first one is YouTube, and I can guarantee there is a lot of people in the room that when they actually need to know something and they're in a bit of a fix, they'll go on YouTube and they'll try and find out. And you can see there, I mean, this is quite staggering, 300 hours of video are uploaded on YouTube every single minute, 300 hours. And you can see the number of viewers on that. Yeah, Facebook, we know how mighty Facebook is. I think the interesting statistic that I really like is the 3rd one of this to do with Facebook, and this 50% of 18 to 24-year-olds, the first thing they do in the morning when they wake up, before they do anything else, is to go on Facebook. And it just shows you how it's become totally part of their work, living life. And there are ways and opportunities that we can actually dovetail into that and utilise that. And of course you've got WhatsApp as another example there, yeah? So the reality is, how can you actually use that? The trouble you always have as trainers is, and we've all been on training courses, and we have all the best intentions in the world, that when we've actually been taught something in a formal process, whether to say that's at a college or a training centre or wherever it may be, is to go out there and do it. Of course you do. But what happens? You go back into your working environment, other things take priority, and it starts to fall by the wayside. And what social media is very good at is keeping that alive and keeping that engagement. And you do that by, of course, involving lots of people, this peer pressure, and actually using it, as it says on there, whether it's to do with, you have a Facebook group account, you put assignments on there, you put work on there, all that sort of stuff. It's just to keep them engaged and keep them alive. It also can be used in all sorts of other ways. You can see some of those on there. As I say, in the academic world, this is still being developed, and we don't know the complete true potential of it, but I certainly believe it's got, as I say, got some mileage. So, onto the third element very quickly, and that is to do with assessments. And again, as trainers in the room, I think we've all acknowledged this at times, that we get a person on a training course, and of course you've got to assess them. So they're there in this alien environment, and we know actually these people are pretty damn capable of doing the job, but nerves take over, this pressure element comes in, and they don't deliver. They don't deliver on the practical assessments in our training environment. So we are really keen, wherever possible, to try and eliminate that issue, and we're much more, to say, focus on what we call these work-based assessments. What also is a benefit when you come to work-based assessments, they're in their own environment, they're using their own tools, and of course you're not under such time pressure as trainers, because it's not a 2-day course in which half a day has to be used for assessments. You can spend more time with these people. Yes, we have to use robust systems to make sure they're doing the job properly, scoring systems, but you can engage with them more, and you can actually give them proper information and feedback on where there may be still some development requirements. So as I say, I think from our point of view as a future perspective, this is really, really important and really quite critical. Yeah, I don't know if many of you people have ever heard of the Miller's pyramid, but in essence, it just says the same thing, and it's all to do with two key parts. The first is this cognition element, in other words, gaining the knowledge, and that's what we as trainers are very focused on, this knows and knows how. But we haven't got a clue when they leave us regarding what changes that's had in their behaviour, will they adapt it, or whatever. And as I say, that's why we're really keen on these work-based assessments. Understanding, as it changed their behaviour, are they actually applying what they've learned? And I quite like this acronym, because it kind of links in really well, SAFER. So when it comes to these assessments, yeah, you of course spread them across all the multitude of job functions, and if you can, within your working environment, within your companies, have more than one assessor. I see quite a lot where it's just, his job is to be an assessor. That can cause you a lot of issues, and I haven't got time to describe those this morning, but yeah, my recommendations is not to go down that route. Not just to also go down these very, very regimented scoring systems, you have to use them, but also feedback is very, very important as well. And there's also, you need to obviously back it up with evidence and all these sorts of things. Okay. So one very final point this morning, which deviates slightly away from training, is we have to demonstrate to people that, it doesn't just stop with you going on a particular course and learning a certain thing, that you have a development plan in place, and that you actually can progress these people further on into other job functions and get, hopefully try and remove a lot of the issues we have within our industry where we aren't particularly good at actually bringing people forward and moving them on. And I quite like this one, this 60-minute development plan. You don't have to go crazy with development plans. You can make it very, very simple and just really just focus on 3 key performance areas as a max, and then just look at one development point within those 3 development areas, and then just discuss them and actually, as I say, formalise them very constructively, and then that gives that employee, as I say, a real indication that you value them and that they hopefully see that they've got a career path in front of them. So I think that's pretty much it from me. So I think, Stefan, it's over to you again now, and thank you very much for your time. I think we're coming back on the stage a little later on. So if you've got any questions, I think that's your opportunity. So, but thank you very much.